All right. Am I audible? You guys can use the chat box and just let me know if there are any audio issues. All right. So I suppose everything is clearly audible to you guys. Fine. Great. So hi, this is Shravani. I'm from product team of SkillVertex, and I am welcoming you to Skill Connect. So basically, let me tell you more about what is SkillVertex. So SkillVertex is basically a growing edtech platform where we focus attention to upskill the youth of today through a plethora of various programs made available online. So SkillVertex emphasizes on the needs and future aspirations of the individuals, connecting them, to the industry emerging technologies as well as requirements. So we are a place where students, interest us, where the skills and are nurtured with personalized mentoring directly by the industry professionals who mold the students into their skill craftsmen of their domain and assist the with their career guidance as well as incubated development. All right. So when it comes to your career, no question should be left unanswered. And hence we present to you Skill Connect, which is an online series of interactive knowledge sharing webinars where we cover the most prominent topics of your field. So this webinar, is about trends in Android development by Sangyan Bagi. So talking about Sangyan Bagi, first of all, I welcome you all over here, and he's going to be taking over the session. So Sangyan is an Android developer and a computer science graduate with, he has 2 years of experience in the industry right now. And along with that, he has been a mentor for Android app development at our platform as well. It's been a good 1 year that he has been with us. And talking about his skill, he has been in he has his expertise in native Android, Java, Kotlin programming languages like that. All right. So without wasting much of your time, I would now hand it over to Sangyan. So hi, Sangyan, you can please take it over.
Hi, Shravani, am I audible?
Yeah. So basically, we cannot see.
Do I want to turn on my camera? Hello.
Yes.
Okay, just a minute. Am I visible now?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
So just a minute, guys. Let me share my screen. So I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, Sangyan.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Sangyan. Today I will be taking this session on trends in Android development. So let's get started. Just a minute. Okay. So basically in today's session, what I'm going to do is I will give you a basic overview. Right now we are in 2023, right? So a lot of things have been changed since Android development came into existence. Previously, we used to code in Java programming language. Now, lots of programming languages updates have been made. Lot of update in the UI related part. How we used to handle UI previously, it has now been changed. How we used to handle UI now, right? So things are now quite changed. So in 2023, what are the basic things that you need to follow if you want to get started with Android development? Today we'll be covering that. Okay. So during this webinar, we'll be covering all the important things in Android development that are essential for you in order to get started, like a Kotlin, Jetpack Compose, MVVM architecture, material design. We'll be also talking about cross-platform development. Right now, more focus will be on native development, but some introduction of cross-platform development will also be given. So let's get started. So basically, in 2023, in current Android development world, if you just want to get started with Android development, what you need to do is you need to learn Kotlin language first. Okay. Why I'm emphasizing on Kotlin language more, because as you can see, the syntax of Kotlin is quite concise and it reduces boilerplate code. Now, what's boilerplate code? Boilerplate code is the code. It is basically a repetitive code. The code you write again and again. The lines of code that you write again and again, it is known as your boilerplate code. So instead of Java, if you prefer Kotlin for your Android development, your boilerplate code gets reduced. So basically, let me give you an example. So if you guys are familiar with Java, you must know that when you are writing a program, when you want to print a basic hello world program in Java, when you want to print hello world basically in Java, we used to write lots of lines of code like system.out.println. So these are the lines of code that we used to write while programming in Java. But in Kotlin, it's very simple. It's just println. That's it. Okay. So what we do is we just use a, over here, I'm just using a println statement, which is a part of system.out.println. So the main advantage is the code is concise and the syntax resembles very much with Java. Okay. As you can see, in case of Java, we used to write system.out.println. In just to print hello world, we used to write system.out.println these lines of code: public static void main string and an array of argument. These were the lines of code that we used to add while just writing a simple hello world program in Java. But in case of Kotlin, what you need to do is we need to just write a println hello world. That's it. So the number of lines of code written in Kotlin are reduced as compared to Java. So I think that's the more preferable over Java, because over here as you can see, you need to write less number of lines of code, and the Kotlin runs on top of Java. So majority of the Kotlin syntax resembles with Java. So for example, if you want to declare an array list, or if you want to declare array list in Java, what you used to do, we used to write array list al, then we used to name the list name equal to new. Okay. And over here we mention whether the array list is integer or a string. Okay. So those who are familiar with Java, they must know that these are the lines of code that we need to write while just declaring an array list in Java. But in case of Kotlin, the syntax will resemble with Java only, but it will be short. So it will be just like where is when you are declaring a variable al equal to okay, like this, an array list will be of integer. Okay, so this is how you can declare a list. This is how you can declare an array list in Kotlin. And so moving ahead, one point was the code in Kotlin is quite concise, and it reduces boilerplate code as compared to Java. And in Kotlin we also have null safety checks. So what are null safety check? The null pointer exceptions in Kotlin are very few, and it's equivalent to 0 as compared to Java. The null pointer exceptions are negligible in Kotlin. So how we declare a string? For example, if I declare a string here in Kotlin, if I declare var s equal to, and I can assign a null safety check to it, and I can print this string, and I can also assign null values to this string. Okay. Just write println s. Okay. So in Kotlin, with the help of just adding this question mark, I can easily handle null safety checks. Okay. So the second point is null safety to prevent common null pointer exceptions. So the null pointer exceptions that we get in Kotlin are comparatively less as compared to Java. And as I mentioned, the Kotlin code resembles with the Java code as well. So these are the things that we keep in mind if you are just getting started with Kotlin. If you already know Java, then getting started with Kotlin will be very easy for you. Okay. Then the next point is coroutines. So what are coroutines? Basically, coroutines helps you to write code efficiently, and they allows you asynchronous programming. So basically, let us suppose that you have bunch of tasks to do. You want to go to college, you want to do your assignments, you want to play 1 hour, you want to there are a bunch of things that you need to do, and you want to manage these things. So in Kotlin, there is a concept of coroutines which helps you to manage multiple tasks. Okay, so what you can do with the help of coroutines, you can save your task. For example, for 1 hour you study and you left whatever you have studied, then you do some other work. So coroutine helps you to manage multiple tasks, and you can also manage that task in parallel. Basically, if you know there is a concept of threads in programming. So what are threads? Basically, threads is a lightweight process. So in programming, there is a concept of thread. So generally what we do, we execute everything on the main thread. For example, if I want to do something on the UI, I want to make a network request, I want to access my local database, I want to access my remote database. So there is a bunch of tasks I want to do, right? There is a bunch of tasks I want to do here. So I cannot do all these tasks in a same thread. Okay. I cannot do all these tasks in a single thread. I want multiple threads to execute these tasks, right? So since I want multiple threads to execute these tasks, so what I need coroutines. Coroutines will help me to execute all these tasks in the background thread without disturbing my main thread. Okay. So my main thread will not get disturbed here, and I will be easily able to execute all my tasks in the background thread. So I hope it's clear to all of you. Okay. So this was all the benefit of Kotlin. I'll repeat again. The syntax is quite easy to understand. It is concise. It runs on top of Java, so that if you are familiar with Java, learning Kotlin will be very easy for you. And we have null safety checks. We have a null pointer exception. The null pointer exception that we get in Kotlin is very less as compared to Java. Okay. And we have coroutines as well, which helps you to do parallel execution of tasks. We can execute all of our tasks parallelly at some other thread. We can use some other thread to execute some other task. So asynchronous programming becomes very easier in case of Kotlin. And coroutines are only possible using coroutines are only possible in Kotlin. Coroutines cannot be executed with Java programming language and any other programming language. So if you want to use coroutines, they are only possible in Kotlin language, not any other programming language. Okay. So moving ahead, if you are done with Kotlin now, if we are done with Kotlin, if we know the basic syntax of Kotlin, and if you have implemented some of the projects in Kotlin, then the next thing to cover is Jetpack Compose. So why Jetpack Compose is it is the newly introduced framework, or I should say it is the newly introduced concept in Android development. And again, Jetpack Compose, writing code in Jetpack Compose is only possible if you are familiar with Kotlin and if you know Kotlin. Right now, Jetpack Compose only runs with Kotlin as well. So writing code in Jetpack Compose is only is only possible if you are either familiar with Kotlin or if you have made some projects in Kotlin previously. Then you can easily get started with Jetpack Compose. So what is Jetpack Compose now? Uh, Jetpack Compose is a substitute of XML. Okay. So previously, Android developer were using XML to develop the UI. So for UI related part, we have XML, and for the logic part, we have either Java or Kotlin, right? So previously, what Android developer was doing was they were using XML. That is, you all know about XML, I think, extensible markup language that is known as XML. So previously, Android developers were using XML to build it, but uh, after a few years, Jetpack Compose came into existence. So Jetpack Compose entirely runs on Kotlin. So you can write the backend code, the logical code in the Kotlin as well, and you can write the UI related code in Kotlin as well. Okay, so you don't need to depend on any other language. Like previously, what we used to do with Kotlin, we must learn XML as well. Then we can get started with Android development. With Kotlin, we need to learn XML as well. With Java, we need to learn XML. So there was the involvement of two languages. One is markup language for our UI, another will be language for our logic part or for our backend. But when Jetpack Compose was introduced, the main aim was to learn only single programming language, that was Kotlin. So with Jetpack Compose, what we can do is using Kotlin, we can build declarative UI approach for Android interfaces. And we have simplified an interactive UI development with composable functions and hot reloading and instant preview. So basically, you can make very simple and appealing UI with the help of Jetpack Compose. And hot reloading feature is there. So what's hot reloading? Basically, hot reloading is also available in frameworks like Flutter and other frameworks as well. But hot reloading basically saves your time. Okay. In a nutshell, what hot reloading does is it saves your time. So previously, if I use XML and Kotlin to develop my Android projects, so at that time, what I used to do is I have to develop a UI feature. Then in order to run that feature, I have to run my application, and that will that was quite time consuming, right? That will consume a lot of my time, and it was quite time consuming. So in order to overcome this, we have this feature of hot reloading. So whatever UI changes that you will make, that will be previewed instantly in your design section. Okay, they will be previewed instantly, and you don't need to run your application again and again. So that's the main purpose of hot reloading. And we have state management, etc. as well. So now let me just show you how to create a new Jetpack Compose project. So in your Android Studio only, go to File, go to New, go to New Project. And as you can see over here, I have two options: empty activity or empty views activity. I have two options. So if I want to follow the basic XML approach to build the applications, if I want to follow the basic XML approach, right now, most people are following the basic XML approach. There is no harm in following that approach. But Jetpack Compose is also gaining demand in the market. So Android developers have also introduced this feature. So if you want to create a Jetpack Compose project with empty activities, activity is nothing but your screen. Activity means your screen. So if you want to create a basic Jetpack Compose project, so please select this one, right? Then select next. I'll just name it my application only because it is just for demonstration. This will be the package name. And here, if you can observe, there is no option to select the programming language because the programming language will be Kotlin only. If I go to previous, if I just go to previous, and if I select an empty view activity, here I am getting an option to select either Java or Kotlin. As you can see, because with this approach, I have an option whether I can write the code in Java or in Kotlin. So this is an XML approach. The approach that I am currently on, it is an XML approach to build application. But if I want to follow Jetpack Compose, then there is no option. I need to write code in Kotlin only. So as you can see, there is no option of selecting the language. So after that, just click finish. And if you want, you can close the previous project. So this is how you can create a basic Jetpack Compose project. Okay, and as you can see, this is the preview. And one of the main advantage of using Jetpack Compose is that if I tell you, so this is an application that I made, and it was made using Jetpack Compose only. So if I break down this application in front of you, so as you can see, this is a card, right? This application was made using Jetpack Compose, and this entire application, it is a movie application. So what I have here, I have this expandable card. If I show you this, I have this expandable card, and overall we have this all these movies, list of movies in a list. Okay, and it is a scrollable list. I have all my list of movie here. So what I was telling you, that the main advantage of using Jetpack Compose is, for example, if you don't want to preview your entire application, how does your entire app looks like? You don't want to preview that. You just want to preview these. How does my single movie looks like? How does my single card looks like? So you can preview it separately. For example, if I just want to preview how does this individual item looks like, how does a single card in my entire application, how does a single card looks like? I just want to preview that. So I can easily preview it in Jetpack Compose. Okay. For example, if I have an application, in this I have a bunch of things like to fill. At first we have to fill name, roll number, address. Then I have some other thing related to the UI. So for example, in Jetpack Compose, what I can do is I can preview this some part of my UI from my entire UI. Again, I'll give you the example of this a particular application. For example, if I just want to preview how does this card looks like, which have the movie name of Avengers and image of Avengers, how does this card looks like? If I just need to preview this, I can preview it separately. Okay, without disturbing the other views that are present here. So this is again the main advantage of using Jetpack Compose. Okay, so these were the main bullet points related to Jetpack Compose. I hope you understood them. Then we have material design concept. So material design was also recently introduced. Material 3, I think Material 3 is going on currently. So material design was developed by Google. And what was the purpose of material design? To build visually appealing UI, visually appealing user interface. Okay, so material design components use ready to use elements. So as you can see, if you can see here, these type of UI, they are quite appealing with generic XML approach and with generic Android development approach that we were following previously. The UI was not appealing. Okay, the UI that we used to make, it was not at all appealing. So after the material design came into existence, we can make our UI appealing. So instead of normal text view, we can use a material text view. Instead of normal card view, we can use a material card view. So these are the things, right? We can use all our material design libraries. There are certain libraries as well. So there is a website known as material.io. I'll just give you an overview of this website. So as you can see, it is also available for Jetpack Compose as well. So if you want to preview, if you want to make appealing UI, okay, so if you want to see the applications that are available that are made using material design, you can refer to this website. And we also have some GitHub repositories related to it. You can refer to it, just search for material.io, and you can practice all these UI if you have a basic knowledge of Android development and material design, then you can practice all these UI. So making these type of UIs that are shown here, making these type of UI are quite easy after material design came into existence. As you can see, this is a bottom sheet. The normal bottom sheet looks like this, but we can customize it. We can give it more colors. We can give it more styles using material design, which was developed by Google. And not only in Android, you can use material design with not only with native Android development, Kotlin, you can use it with Flutter, you can use it in I think you can use it in web development as well. So material design will basically, the basic idea of using material design is to make your UI appealing and appealing to the user. Okay, the UI for a user that is using your app or website, the UI must be appealing and interactive. So material design does that job. That makes your UI appealing and interactive. Okay. Now, one more thing that you need to follow in modern day Android development is architecture components. So we have multiple architecture components. We have new model, we have live data, we have room navigation components. Okay. So I'll be explaining one by one what are architecture components and all. But before that, what we need is we need to know about MVVM architecture. Okay. So what is an MVVM architecture basically? In MVVM stands for model view model, right? So whenever you, if you are preparing, what is an architecture? So if you want to prepare a huge building, if you want to prepare a huge layout, we plan an architecture first. We decide over here rooms will be there, over here kitchen, bathroom will be there. What we do is we prepare an architecture. So similarly in programming, in any other practices in our project, in industries as well, we follow architecture. So the architecture that we follow is MVVM architecture. That stands for MVVM stands for model view model. So similarly, while creating our Android projects, we will be following an MVVM architecture, right? So this is the structure of MVVM architecture. Let me just show you. This is the structure of MVVM architecture. So as I mentioned, what is MVVM? It is model, view model. So your topmost layer is your view layer. Okay. The middle layer is view model layer. View model, what does view model will have? View model will have your business logic. Okay. Business logic. And along with that, it also have live data. So what does live data does is live data observe the changes in the data, and these changes are reflected in the activity layer. Okay. So view model is the middle layer, and model decides from where to fetch the data. So model has the repository, and model makes sure from where to fetch the data. So let me give you an example. Data can be fetched either from a remote data source or a local data source, right? So remote data source, if you stream, let me give you an example of YouTube application. If we stream YouTube videos online, you are streaming them with internet. With the help of internet, you are streaming them. If you turn off the internet, videos will not be accessible, right? So that's the example of remote data source. And if in YouTube we also have the feature of downloading videos offline, we can also download videos and we can stream them offline. So if we are streaming videos offline without internet, so that becomes the example of a local data source. So model decides from where to get the data. Either you can get data from a remote data source or from local data source. Again, so after that the data is sent to, what we do is we follow we follow a bottom up approach here. After that, the data is sent to the view model layer. And after that, the data is sent to the view layer. So view model layer will have your data. For example, let me give you an example of a stock market application. So for example, on a given day, the current stock price is 30 rupees, right? Or let us say 100 rupees. So this data, this information, this is the data related information. This information will be present in the middle layer. That is the view model layer. And the live data will observe. Live data is an observable, which will observe that information, and that information will be reflected in the UI. That is your activity or a fragment. So let me just show you. So this is your MVVM architecture, and these are the things: view, view model, and model. Okay, so what is the basic benefit of using MVVM architecture? The basic benefit is separation of concerns. Okay, so MVVM promotes a clear separation between data, that is your model, and UI, that is your view, and logical part, that is your view model. Okay, sorry. So or your UI related, your UI is separated from your logic and from the data sources. As I mentioned, UI layer is separate from this logical layer, that is view model layer, and from the data layer. So if we follow separation of concerns, basically what we do is we follow a layer architecture, layer A, B, C, view model, view model. So each and every layer will be independent of one another, right? So each and every layer will be independent of one another, and each and every layer will have a very little or less idea about what other layers are doing. So for example, layer A will have a very little less idea about what layer B is doing. Layer B will have a very little or less idea what layer A and layer C are doing. So we are able to achieve separation of concerns here if we follow MVVM architecture in our Android development project. And the other benefit of using MVVM architecture is that the code becomes testable and bug fixing becomes very easy. Okay. For example, if I am able to figure out that there is a bug in the UI layer, so I need to fix the UI layer only. My project will be separated like UI layer, database layer, logic layer. For example, if we encounter any bug in the UI layer, so at that time, what I need to do is I need to fix the bug in the UI layer only. I don't need to disturb the other layer, database layer, logic layer, data layer. These layers will remain undisturbed. And what I will do is I will only do the bug fixing in the UI layer. Okay. So as I mentioned, view will be responsible for the UI part. View model sides between view and model, as you can see, and providing layer of abstraction. It holds an export, and it can be easily integrated with other architecture components with like live data and view model. Okay, so these are the architecture components. As I mentioned, one of them was view model and live data. I have already explained view model is the second layer. It is for a data layer, and it holds our data, and it is for the logic part. And live data is an observable which observe the data, and whether there are any changes in the data, that changes are reflected in the UI layer. Now we have a room. What is room? Room is a library. As you can see, this is in the model layer. Room is present in the model layer. And room is a persistence library which was built on top of SQLite database. So room database helps you to store data locally in your local phone storage. Okay. So whenever you need to store data in your local phone storage, for example, as I gave you the example of YouTube videos that we access while downloading without internet. The YouTube videos or Spotify songs that we access without internet are where they are fetched from. They are fetched from our local storage, local data source. So room is nowadays, previously we used to use SQLite, but after that room came in modern Android development, room came into existence. So from that, after that we are using room database. Okay. So then we have navigation components. Navigation means with from one fragments, how can you interlink, how can you create a navigation graph, how can you move from one activity to other activity. Basically, navigation component are for fragments. So how can you navigate between fragments, how can you send data, how can you pass data. These are the things. So these are the basic concept of architecture components. Okay. Now this was all about native Android development. What are the things that you need to keep in mind if you want to get started with Android development in 2023? So these are the things that are must if you are getting started with Android development. Okay, in 2023. Apart from this, if you want, you can also follow cross-platform app development. So cross-platform app development helps you to create application by just using a single code base. So with the help of a single code base, you can build applications for both for Android, iOS, and you can also build desktop and web apps as well. Okay, so cross-platform app development refers to process of building model applications that can run on multiple platforms. Like as I mentioned, you can run that application on Android as well. You can run that application on iOS as well. And the main thing is that the code base is not different. With single code base only, you can develop application both for Android and for iOS. Okay. So it allows developer to write code once and deploy it across multiple platforms. So with a single code base, I can develop app for both Android and iOS, and I can also deploy it on Google Play Store along with Apple App Store, right? So these are the few example of uh, cross-platform app development frameworks. So if you are familiar with Kotlin, if you already know Kotlin, then you can refer to Kotlin multi-platform KMM. Okay, it is quite new, but if you already know Kotlin, then I think there is no need to learn any other framework like React Native or Flutter. If you are familiar with Kotlin, you can after that, if you want to if you want to learn, if you want to explore cross-platform development, you can go with Kotlin multi-platform KMM, right? After that, if you want, you can go with Flutter as well. You can go with React Native as well. So Flutter is also backed by Google. It is also developed by Google. I think it was developed in 2018. Flutter also helps you to build a cross-platform application both for Android and iOS. You can build them using Flutter, and Flutter also provides you the same features like hot reloading. Hot reloading means you don't need to in Flutter, you don't need to run your application again and again just to check the small UI changes that you have made. You don't need to do that again and again in case of Flutter. Okay, and you can also follow React Native. React Native was developed by Facebook, so there is, I think all of you know that Instagram and Facebook are the applications that are the mobile apps. The mobile apps of Instagram and Facebook are developed using React Native only. And nowadays the KMM is also getting popular. That is Kotlin multi-platform. So if you are little bit familiar with Kotlin, so you can explore that as well. Okay. So these are the benefits. These are the advantages of using. These are the advantages of using cross-platform development. So one is code reusability. You don't need to write the same code again and again, and it will allow you to build applications both for Android and iOS, minimizing deployment efforts and saving time and resources. And again, as I mentioned, single code base. With the single code base, you can develop applications for multiple platforms. Okay, and you don't need a separate code base for that. Faster development. So the features like hot reloading and all these features will help you to make your development process faster. Okay, so cross-platform frameworks often provide rapid development cycles with features like hot reloading, allowing developers to see real-time changes. As I mentioned, real-time changes means you don't need to run, you don't need to press that run button again and again just to check your small UI changes, just to check whether the button you have placed, whether it is correctly placed in your mobile screen or not. You don't need to do that because of this feature known as hot reloading. And it also reduces development costs. So for example, if there is an organization, it is a newly introduced organization. So for that organization, they don't need to hire separately for native Android developer, and they don't need to hire separately native iOS developer. So if they do that, at first they need to hire an Android developer. They need to train that Android developer on Kotlin language and or Java language, whatever whatever is their code base, they need to train on that. And similarly, they need to hire a iOS developer. They need to train him or her on Objective C or either Swift. So a lot of time will get wasted, and lot of company resources and cost will be involved. As we all know, in hiring, lot of cost is involved. So what they do is they look for developers who can develop application in cross-platform, who can develop, who are familiar with the cross-platform development like KMM, Flutter, or React Native. So they hire those developers, and doing that, their cost is also getting reduced, their time is also getting saved. So they are able to reduce their cost, and they are able to achieve their goal in lesser time. So these are the advantages of using cross-platform development over native development. And if I recommend, if I would recommend you, if you are just a little bit familiar with Kotlin, you can just get started with KMM, or you can get started with Flutter as well. Flutter uses that programming language. So, and the syntax of Dart resembles with Java, very much resembles with Java. So you can go with Flutter as well. Okay, so this was all about the things, necessary things that you need to follow in modern day Android development. And thank you all for attending this session. It was a great interacting with you all. And if you have any question, feel free to ask. If anybody of you are having any questions, you can ask. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Sangyan, for sharing your valuable insights. Guys, if you have any
Okay.
questions, you can use the chat box or you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you and you can go ahead and ask questions. I see no questions so far. Others, if you have any questions,
Feel
you
free to
can
ask
drop.
if you want to clear something.
All right. So we don't see any questions. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Sangyan. Thank you so much for joining.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
yeah.